Welcome to the April 3rd bhyve production user call. We have Hans, Andrew, Adam, Patrick, Jan, Eva, and myself, Michael, so far. And a quick point that's kind of bhyve related. The images used by the GitHub builders were one, a little behind. Two, the standard FreeBSD VM images do not work apparently because you need a serial console enabled and cloud init. But in parallel to that discussion, Martin M updated the port to the latest OpenZFS on FreeBSD, so you can go try that. We discussed it in yesterday's call. Go check out the recording. So that was great news because it's been kind of lagging and behind. So Alexey still has a draft EDK2 update. Please, everyone test that. It's pretty exciting. It works. It has a bhyve logo. This showed up this week. There is a bridge VLAN update, and thank you, Jan, for clarifying that. It sounds like this means, I hope I didn't chop it off there, you get default VLAN behavior rather than undefined.
No.
No, then go ahead and describe that, and I think I
What
missed
it means is that you can assign a native VLAN ID for untagged frames
it.
on a bridge member interface, just like you would do on any other real switch.
Okay.
It's useful. It should have been there a long time ago, but now it's coming.
Okay. Well, take a peek,
Because
test it
adding
out.
a VLAN interface to the bridge creates problems.
So it adds access mode to the internal bridge. Cool.
Yeah, it depends on your vendor terminology.
Well, that works.
Well, from a switch standpoint. That's what you
Yeah,
would
an
call it on
access
a
port.
hardware standard switch, yes.
No, the bridge always supported only access ports and no VLAN trunking across the bridge in the past.
Oh, sorry, I got it backwards.
So the
Okay.
access mode is not really new in FreeBSD, in my opinion.
I kind of wonder
If you're using Cisco terminology, which I am also used to.
Yeah, this is not native VLAN ID. That's setting the native VLAN ID on a trunk port. Okay, that would also be useful. Got it.
Yeah.
What's the updated description for mortals? In Cisco terminology?
Allows the Cisco terminology would be a PVID can now be set on trunk ports.
Port VLAN ID.
Yeah, default VLAN ID or primary VLAN ID. Cisco calls it a PVID, I think. Arista does anyway.
It's a native VLAN on Cisco. I'm still trying to figure out what the use case is because with the FreeBSD host being not a switch, so there is no internal fabric that somehow magically connects ports.
Oh, let's say
so we have a FreeBSD system as a router, and we have tagged sub-interfaces. And the untagged physical interface is always VLAN something. It's completely irrelevant what it is. It all depends on what is on the other end and what the native VLAN setting on the switch that you connect to the FreeBSD host is set to.
I have not had to do this in a hypervisor, but external to the hypervisor, I have had to do this. And you have two systems that started off with untagged traffic. And of course, they were put on a certain VLAN. And then later on, tagged traffic got added on top of that, but you still had to maintain the existing VLAN for untagged traffic. That is a thing that we've had with a few different hosts, a few different proprietary applications. So if you need that untagged traffic to still go to the right place in the network, you have to be able to set the PVID on that port, as well as handling all of the other tags. It's a pain.
On a switch or on a hypervisor host.
Yeah. So now we've had this happen with actual hosts, actual servers. So if I went and virtualized that server, I would now have that problem inside the hypervisor, and this is what that would solve. The correct acronym for that is not PVID. The correct acronym for that is PITA.
Exactly.
May
But
may I
Well,
may,
we may
may
have
I
a
add to
t-shirt.
that whoever placed the native VLAN into the .1Q standard deserves to be shot.
Don't be, let's use softer words.
um,
Mhm.
there's good reasons for that scenario to exist, unfortunately, and they all boil down to for historical reasons.
Yes.
And well, I mean, we're about to talk about historical reasons as an entire topic.
What a segue.
Sometimes you
We've had like
cannot
multiple
get away
segues.
from. You cannot get away from them.
I really, I never ever used native VLANs. I
Yeah.
eliminate
do.
them from my layer 2 infrastructure by setting the native VLAN to some unused number like 999 everywhere.
Yeah.
And no traffic ever goes untagged on a trunk port anywhere. Never.
Yeah.
A trunk is a trunk is a trunk, and there's only tagged frames on that line. That's
Yeah.
my data center. I mean, I do
Yep.
you do. But so what's the use case for a native VLAN?
Yeah. I run a predominantly layer 2 service provider, and I would estimate that less than 1% of my ports have a native VLAN configured, probably somewhere around 0.1%. And yeah, I too wish that I could get rid of those, but I can't because my customers can't, and therefore I can't.
Okay.
Interesting point that you want to plan ahead, it sounds like, a bit like people getting their bridge networking wrong. Anywho,
Hmm.
awesome. That was great.
Oh yeah.
And thank you for t-shirt idea 257,000. That's a rough. I have a running
T-shirt
list
idea.
elsewhere.
Yeah.
We can go through those.
T-shirt, mugs, etc. Yeah.
So we touched on this before the recording in various ways. For a super quick catch up,
Hmm.
this conversation started with CPUID handling and branched into all sorts of fingerprint management and manipulation, for lack of a better term. Hans, thank you. You found a CPUID database that is super duper GPLE, super duper complex, super duper hard to navigate, and it's not like something one can just drop in. You sent a link to this CPUID database, and I thought I saw license something or other.
The
I
data in the database is not GPL.
the actual payload of it. Great. That is good to hear.
What is the license? I could just look at it.
I failed to find this
It is.
equivalent despite much searching. So you rock. But that's one little tiny bit of good news in the fact that in the context of, hey, it's under
Oh.
other. Oh, good. The other license.
Creative Commons 0 universal. That's
Oh,
reasonably good.
Cool.
Well, I was going to say
Woohoo.
this sounds like a phone book. It's a collection of facts, which means
Yeah.
at least under
Right.
US law, that's not copyrightable.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's the good news. The
Great.
thing that needs some love is that in all things Illumos and bhyve, there has been some ambiguity, for lack of a better term, on the mix of CDDL and the original FreeBSD licenses. I have some action items there. Corporations division. Okay.
Interesting.
Let's see. So there's that. Traditionally, by default, bhyve, where did I go? bhyve has always just done essentially
Sorry.
host in VMware terms, etc. And that would mean you see the CPU available on the host. And it's like, yeah, okay, but in places like Proxmox, people are getting pretty scientific on, say, crafting a VX2 compatible Intel CPU and other stuff. And this becomes a hot topic for, say, migration, cold, warm, hot, you name it. So Oxide's motivation was to accommodate their strategy there. Anyway, that said, in the course of it, I was burned by a virtual machine having proprietary software that did a fingerprint check.
But it all boils down to everybody's got a client running some antique software that they cannot upgrade for some reason. Or it's running on an OS that cannot be upgraded for some reason, or what have you.
That's pretty much my
Oh,
whole business
goody.
model.
Well, some of them are harder than others. Like a lot of them we just lift and just do a lift and shift and you're done. You walk away.
The,
I'm back for what it's worth.
so
Oh,
the worst offender I've seen is when it comes to, well, it has to work with our non-standards compliant EISA card,
Yep.
Okay.
which controls this room-sized machine over there.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
wrap up some context
Luckily,
and we'll go from there.
It has to
Luckily,
run DOS, and you must not change the timing behavior of the system.
thank God I don't have that level of problem.
Okay.
I moved ahead without you there, Michael.
Yeah, it's cool.
Sorry.
No, awesome. I guess that'll be preserved in some
Since
way.
I knew what we were talking about.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
that's
but
why I
we've all-
invited you. Here we are.
We've all got this problem.
So
and,
let's jump
like-
to motivations, and let's contextualize what you're saying. So there's that little occasionally you want a CPUID to show up as something so your migration works better. Hey, however, moving on, in practice, Eva pointed out that as a developer, you might want to have your laptop pretend it's a bigger system, just so your software correctly in the interface gives you the CPU that is supposed to be there, etc. So total flexibility might be really helpful to developers. I touched on a few weeks ago the GPU pass-through, where either we need to say, hey, we're not bhyve, we're KVM, or this slot is this, GPU slot, or the CPU, this, I don't know, has to look like a server or other stuff. So there's one quick one, and then what I'm calling mission critical abandonware. And that's, I think, the heart of this, and especially Adam, where I want to hear your insights.
Yeah.
Number one, my dry cleaner whipped out this little stack of paper. I'm like, what happened? He's like, well, his machine died, and all his 2007 forward Windows 7 stuff was on there. Fortunately, that drive held up after like 7 years, a couple of years right there. But so amazingly, that little WD drive is fine. I imaged it. I got him his data. The old Dell Core 2 something system had leaking caps that would sometimes boot, blah, blah, blah. Either way, he's up and running with a new system, but I put the image under, say, QEMU and bhyve. It's like, yeah, that'll be hard to boot. Adam T, it sounds like you have a money counter that is a mission critical abandonware system on this bookkeeping system that cost, instead of a 15-minute VM move, it was like 4 days every installation. Yeah, thanks, guys. And,
Oh, God.
And it needs support to do that, and their support hours are perfectly incompatible with the working hours of the client. So it's like, well, yeah, I can't do it off hours because they can't do it off hours despite needing them. And then a colleague here in Oregon pointed out that APC PowerShoot has a VM, the Zabbix Appliance has a VM, and there are various cloud templates. So either it's a question of purely CBIOS or some kind of legacy BIOS or CSM, or it's a combination of that and the CPU work. Oh, sorry, it's BIOS and C work. Someone's at the door. Just one moment. This is crazy. Okay.
I gotta say, the mission critical abandonware
Is a good word. Or a good term, rather.
When it rains, it pours. So,
And we're
Adam,
agreeing.
our
Mission
dear
critical
guest,
abandonware is a good term.
could
like
you tell us more about your real world mission critical abandonware issues? And if you can, throw dollar numbers on it, but that's up to you.
Okay, so nobody else on
either.
this call is from Nobody else from this call is from Manitoba. I don't think anybody else from this call is even from Canada. Pause for confirmation. Okay, so I don't think this will be a problem. My client makes payroll processing software, and they have a handful of very large clients where the payroll software has quite a lot of custom logic written in COBOL, and it runs on DOS. DOS or Windows 95. Well, something antique, and does not successfully run on like Windows 2000 and newer OSs. The compiler, meanwhile, is from a company who no longer sells that product, no longer supports that product, no longer even acknowledges that they ever made that product in the past. Getting new licenses for the compiler is flat out impossible. You'd have to fly to somewhere and hold a gun to someone's head to get a new license for it. The problem with that is that the license for the COBOL compiler that produces the payroll software that, ensures people can buy food, ultimately, is node locked to the Windows computer that it was installed on.
It's better every turn.
And
Keep going.
that Windows computer in turn is an XP OEM license, which is node locked to that piece of hardware. Microsoft has completely abandoned the XP licensing system, so that is a dead end now. I think that finally died sometime last year. So now it's okay, I can't put a new XP license on or the compiler won't work. How do I get the XP OEM license to continue working on what it doesn't know is new hardware?
Yeah, you basically need to completely convince this system that its hardware has not changed.
Near completely.
Invert one jump instruction.
Hmm?
Hydra to the rescue.
Sorry.
How
Say
so,
again?
Jan?
Hatch one jump instruction in the right location.
So the check isn't done, you're saying?
Yes.
Is
Yes, in
bypassing the check
theory,
that easy now?
you can do that, but
Yeah.
it seems would be much easier to just, I don't know, reverse engineering someone's mission critical software does not sound like a good plan. I'll put it that way.
Depending on abandonware does not sound like a good plan.
It wasn't
No.
abandoned at the time.
There's a lot of bad plan here, but
Yes, absolutely. And like the thing is, my client is now on, like, that was the first generation of their software. They're now supporting the fourth generation of their software. This particular client has very unique regulatory requirements, and they are not willing to go through the process again of customizing payroll software to meet their needs. I think their regulatory requirement argument is bullshit, but I'm not the one signing the checks, so
Okay, no idea about
it represents a fairly substantial revenue stream for my customer, and since I like my customer to continue paying me,
It's your
now
revenue stream.
invested in their customer paying them.
Ooh. Okay.
It's not their own, like they won't go bankrupt if these customers go away, but it is substantial.
But
and
not
it runs
enough
under
to
DOS.
upgrade and go through all the hoops of modernizing, which the dry cleaner
No.
literally had to do. He had to spend a bunch of money to get the same functionality on new hardware.
My best guess is if they had to redo all of the customizations again today in the modern system, you'd be looking at an investment of somewhere between $250,000 and $500,000 Canadian dollars.
Goodness.
And this is all, so yeah, hinging this all on a single mother XP OEM license seems like the much faster path, much shorter path, if you will. So I'm like, but this is a generic problem. These aren't the only people running software that cannot be upgraded. Like I've got label printers, I've got scanners, I've got, all sorts of hardware that works fine under Windows XP. And some, customer wants to continue using for whatever reason. This isn't a unique problem to this customer. So like, do we have solutions for this?
I saw someone, I'll just throw it out there for context. Someone had a CNC machine, just cutting metal precisely.
Yep.
And it was on a Macintosh 2X. It's like,
Oh
well,
my God.
those G-code commands haven't changed, and it's not like a secure environment. It's like, here's it just tells the machine what to do. So, that's
that's
a thing.
really common for that kind of industrial equipment, from what I can tell.
It is.
Oh,
yeah.
HVAC.
X-ray machines.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it?
CH,
What was it? 3 years ago, Japan
X,
finally got rid of floppy
floppy.
disks.
Yep.
Yep. For taxes, I think it was.
Goodness.
I don't remember what equipment it was, but yeah.
A friend of mine has multiple dentist clients all running X-ray machines that if you open up the cover, there's a single board computer running like Windows 98 in one case.
Wow.
It's like,
ATMs that are crashed into
it's really-
Windows startup screens. Go
It's
ahead, Jan.
really problematic. In some cases, you are not even allowed by regulation to install the security updates until the vendor pushes them.
correct.
And
that
those
is
things
the
are
situation
network
here, too.
facing, even if it's still supported the operating system. Like you could have a Windows 10 based, fairly modern X-ray machine, and you must not install the necessary security updates to fix network attacks because it's only certified with the version from like 5 years ago.
There's a lot of this out there in the world.
Yes, there is.
And this problem is growing, and it seems to be unserved.
And in fairness, that you are not allowed to do upgrades is with good reason. If you look at the Thurac 25
yeah.
disaster.
Oh, what's the name? What,
Yep.
do you have a link or something?
It's famous, yeah.
Tell me,
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
had not heard of
famous.
it. What's the name? Thorac?
Theriac?
THERAC-25. Basically, they took this company made radiation treatment machines, and
right.
their previous versions of it, they did some things, and then when they upgraded to 2 different types, there was a bug in the new version that would cause it if you made the wrong order of operations, it would use a different kind of radiation with the wrong settings, and it would cause a way overexposure.
Yeah, it was like somebody was supposed to get, 5 minutes of alpha radiation, and instead they got 25 minutes of gamma radiation or something. I mean, I'm pulling those numbers out of my hat, but something along that level of
There were about
lethality.
six accidents in the mid to late 80s.
And they didn't get superpowers like every movie that involves gamma radiation.
No, their superpower was
not as far as they've told us.
Oh, geez.
Pretty sure they just died.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Jeez.
So doing this on healthcare equipment is questionable at best, but doing this for CNC machines or for payroll software or what have you is a much less.
Oh, well, you say
dangerous.
less.
I mean,
but
honestly, CNC machines, I see it too, because if you make a mistake and
it's an airplane part, or the daily penalties from the Internal Revenue Service are quite high for a large organization if your like payroll is wrong. So
they are
there are
potent.
lots of numbers all around.
But I had someone complaining that they must add a HDD to the CNC controller instead of an SSD. So basically, okay, and every time we run this part, the vibrations kill the drive. Great.
Adam, have you been able to at least image and back up that miracle machine?
Oh yeah. We've got a bit level backup of it.
Great.
And the hard drive has died at least twice.
That's the question.
Over the years.
Storage hat. Yep. Okay.
The problem is the motherboard and the CPU.
So, perfect segue. I did some research into the fingerprinting tools, for lack of a better term, some of which are proudly VM oriented. I'm trying to find the links I found, but on a Windows system, there's like, hey, what's our product, our UUID, which at least you can feed in through bhyve to bring it on home here and now, and VM bhyve makes that pretty obvious. Naturally, MAC addresses are something you want to plan out pretty early on and stick to, a bit like your VLANs that you emphasized beautifully earlier. Processor information is both available and be it cross-referenceable with the link up above. And just polling the group, what have you seen software look for? I mean, I remember the good old days of like Windows 7 complaining, if not that I used it personally, but it's like, oh no, your 3COM NIC changed and this is an invalid license and haha, or your GPU and other nonsense. So other
Yeah.
criteria?
If
Depends
you're
how far
very
back you
lucky,
go.
if you're very lucky, it is only the MAC address, and it's enough to just have a virtual NIC with the right MAC address connected to nothing.
Yeah.
But
Um,
a lot of
the-
software uses more than that.
Okay. Adam?
I have seen ancient Unix software demand that the device name also be correct for the Ethernet card, which is a pain in the ass. That is not something I've seen in the wild for probably 25 years, though. So I don't think is still relevant today. And I hope I never see it again.
It used to be common on Solaris and all those other more or less proprietary Unix workstations and licensing of LAN Manager and Veritas file system and all that stuff.
Yeah. So the serial number of the hard drive was a common one for all platforms.
Ew. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's horrid.
I know. Yes, it is, but that was a thing. There's still software like that running today. The UUID of the motherboard, obviously. That's the linchpin of the Windows XP problem, I think.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't want to speculate. Cool, thank you.
It takes like UUIDs off 4 or 5 components. I know the motherboard is the main one. I don't recall the other ones off the top of my head.
So you may be able to preserve your activation status if you just change them one at a time, because Windows at least used to be quite forgiving, so that there were guides how you could effectively fork your Windows activation.
Yeah. You but with an OEM key, you cannot change the motherboard.
No, not with an OEM.
But maybe you can just force a UID. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is, if you're going from physical hardware to virtualized environment like bhyve, you don't have at present you don't have the opportunity to change it one thing at a time, and once you have the opportunity to set it to whatever you want, you have no reason to change it.
Yeah,
you just set it to what the old is and call it a day.
Yes.
Which I think is probably what it sounds like we want, is the ability to do that.
And we have some of that ability,
setting.
Fortunately. We do. And that's what I experimented with, and it got me part of the way, but not all the way. Yeah. Oh, and one key point that I cannot emphasize enough. You want to document this all before that machine dies, because once it's dead and will not post, suddenly learning its UUID might be bad. Logic analyzer or something. I don't even know.
Yeah, break out the soldering iron, have fun.
Yeah.
Or know the hash function to and just recompute it.
Right. So, that
one remark, please. While we were discussing these ancient Windows XP based systems, I was wondering about if reactors would be a path out of that XP dilemma. But as far as I know, bhyve does not do 32-bit guests, right?
It does. It has for quite some time.
Okay.
There's a funny story behind that. Is ReactOS only 32-bit?
So what's the state of affairs
today? Yes.
In terms of reactor support.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh. All right. I assumed it was. Okay. To the rescue. I think, Adam, for the record, I joked about that on the Fediverse.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
What about that?
I guess
from now.
if we are at that level, running it in Wine may be an option, because then you just have to do the value spoofing at the API level.
Wine, what? And of course, modern Windows has some amount of ancient cruft support, but I don't know if you can say, hey, run this and slip in this UUID. Haha. For a taste of what bhyve can do here and now, I think we have John Baldwin to thank, but board asset tag and all that. But again, this information is moot if you never collected it and it's gone. It's like you want to know right up front, and I'm still trying to find those VM
If you really have to spoof a
fingerprint.
strange hard disk for some really annoying software, VIDIO SCSI may be a way to effectively expose a made-up device to a virtual machine, or the SATA emulation, but that doesn't give you as much control as VIDIO SCSI, at least on FreeBSD. With CTL, you can,
Oh, good point.
I think, load in custom mode pages and so on. So,
Yeah, I don't know.
and you can easily set the serial number and so on.
I'm wondering if being able to set the UUID and the make and etc. from the BIOS would be enough to fool XP.
While we're having this
You've got
conversation,
a backup, give it a try.
Yeah.
keep it.
It's not like there's any activation services still running for it, right?
No. Because the not the EULA, but the license key. Oh, it's stupid. They've hidden it, but there's language that like you can replace the motherboard from like with a like motherboard from the same vendor of the same model, etc. I'm like, okay, how does it know? What's its decision criteria for same make, same model?
I'm going to start with serial number and UUID, but go ahead.
Yeah, like is it just the BIOS parameters that are easy to override here, like you're showing us? I don't know.
I think this is a job for science.
Yeah. I'm assuming, Dexter, that there's a bhyve call at the start of all those -0.
Oh yeah, this is just the heavy lifting.
Okay.
I was about to add a ... at the end. So yeah.
I'm thinking surely those aren't options to get SMI BIOS version.
No, but the inverse would be actually that's inadvertently a great idea that a simple script that would collect all that from any given OS would be nice.
Yep.
Let's put some ... because there's the heavy lifting. So let's do, and I had a few, but not a comprehensive one. Script to SCRI.
Now, here's the $1 million question.
Yes, sir. I like $1 million.
Are all of these documented somewhere?
That was my question too.
In bhyve or in your Windows machine?
bhyve.
In bhyve.
Oh, the VM bhyve config manual page. I'm so glad you asked.
Okay.
Let's take a look. Oh, just read the code, man. BIOS. BIOS. Oh, here we go. Boom. BIOS vendor. Oh, with descriptions. Love it.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Oh,
I'm not sure who put that in, but
I think
but
John
good job to
Baldwin,
them.
but yeah, amen, John. He moves mountains.
Now the question is, how do you gather all of that?
That's literally what I'm discussing. There's some wmix commands in Windows, but
booting modern
I know how to do it in
system
Solaris.
and running DMID code.
Correct. DMID code is a good
Linux.
start. DMID code.
DMID code works on any of the Illumoses. You can use PRT conf. Let me double check that. There are two commands I always get confused. I think it's PRT conf dash like V.
Where's that command in here?
Okay.
Yeah, PRT conf dash V tells you like everything. It is a huge dump.
Oh, sweet. Good.
Oh, yeah, right. WMIC is not a standard command. You have to install it.
Oh, well, I think it's around nowadays, but if you're on a Windows 7 machine, there are countless utilities that did not exist back then.
Yeah. That command, the get WMI object command, doesn't work either.
What, no PowerShell on Windows XP?
No. No, like I'm running PowerShell on Windows 11 right now,
Oh, got it. Got it.
and I literally just got invalid class Win32
Weird.
and 64. No,
You okay?
I can dig into that.
I want to
That's
say
worth digging
Microsoft's
into.
been trying to kill off support for Win32.
Well, yeah.
Oh god, yeah. But where's the equivalent? Or am I missing some module, or who knows?
It's possible.
We'll figure that out.
Ah,
I might just be missing the whole WMIC support stuff. I had to redo this laptop not that long ago.
virtual machine fingerprinting investigation. So yeah, I swear I had some okay VM fingerprinting links, and I'll dig those up. But yeah, this is the scope of it, and folks like Ivan, Eva, others, have you just give real world experiences that we can add to the pile of, oh yeah, we had to run this old thing and it was for like really dumb reasons. And Adam, I think I put that also on the Fediverse. It's like this might be the hardest and dumbest thing we've done in our careers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, it is. Definitely is.
Well, the thing is, most people who have kind of been in the business for any length of time have ran into it at least once.
Oh, yeah.
And is this retro computing or is this mission critical modern enterprise computing? I can't tell. I have no idea.
Yes. That's
And
the
Did you
answer.
say
Yeah, remember
I-Series or
NASA was buying
Z-Series?
parts on eBay.
Yeah. Hey, at
So,
least
yes.
we're not trying to get Token Ring up and running.
you mentioned someone was like doing
FDDI?
that.
Oh,
Icon?
please go away. Please. No.
Does anyone have a 155 megabit ATM card?
No.
I think Eva does.
I actually used that
I
once.
do, and the Cisco chassis that works with it
Oh, jeez.
for
I threw away
nostalgic
my old
reasons.
Foundry gear years ago.
I kept one.
3000 or 7000 series chassis?
1960
Oh.
something.
Oh, you went the weird one. Okay.
Yeah, the 2600 and then 3600 series that was way below the 7200. That was the only ones we could afford, and they were quite decent actually.
Yeah, that's what I put it in, was a
We
3600.
learned how to navigate the Cisco product matrix. For example, you could get large amounts of CPU performance if you buy the integrated communication phone something platform thing and just use the IP router, and larger memory than the even more expensive chassis you had and stuff like that. So you learn to navigate. There was this Cisco performance chart PDF that circulated among ISPs, which was not linked anywhere publicly, but still available for public download if you knew the right address and stuff.
Yes, we are now firmly into the retro computing section.
Wild times.
Oh, go gray hair.
I remember that too.
Okay, this was interesting because it uses a bunch of phrases I had not put together. First, VM fingerprinting, artifacts, footnotes, threat model.
Sorry, is that linked in your document?
I dropped in the chat.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
Yeah, so the back channel is chat, and I do have it now linked in the document. I do not know what the link is, but
what you're saying here is we need to go through this and make sure everything listed on this page we can override.
That is the punchline.
Just being clear on that.
There are some higher priority ones than others, but yep, that kind of is what it looks like. And Hans, I hope
this is fingerprinting from a network security standpoint, or from a security standpoint. Although it
you
still
mean
has
like a license validation? I don't know.
No. This is fingerprinting, like identifying a VM, trying to figure out what the heck it runs.
Okay. Cool.
This is, for example,
CPUID
relevant for either identifying the hypervisor, or if you're on the other side, making sure you're not detected as a hypervisor. So, for example, if you want to analyze malware and it sees, oh, I'm running under QEMU, sorry, no, I'm not doing the malicious thing.
So, and Antonig, has a honeypot business based on jails, and I'm sure there are times when you need something to appear as something else for reasons.
Yep. Yep.
So it's where we operate. So okay, that was an interesting link on that, but I'm sure please drop in anything you happen to find or have been using, etc. But it's a fascinating, ugly topic that for some
Mm.
like, ooh, forensics and stuff. And for us, it's like we need the money counter to work. And we like the money counting.
I mean, the fact that we've blown 3/4 of an hour says it's an interesting topic.
Mm.
So, actionable, just hey, Hans, I hope you're keeping notes because hey, some of that we've discussed to date. I will try to find the other links I found. If you've got links, great. Hallelujah. Shall we segue, as you just mentioned, Cisco contraptions?
Mhm.
Should we talk about just VXLAN in production? Sounds like
Yeah.
some are doing it.
Yeah. I run I run two separate VXLAN fabrics in production, which is unfortunate. They should be one, but they're two. One is actually tunneled through the other just to make life interesting.
What's your
Ow.
underlay MTU? 1800?
I've got no. Well, customer data 1500. No exceptions. My own ports 9000, 9100, 10K, 11K. I even got one box that does 11K now. Most of them are just set to 9000, so that I effectively never have to worry about running out of encapsulation layers.
So behind the
I
scenes,
could-
it's like 9K, 10K, and 1100, you say?
Yeah, 9000 plus.
9,000 plus, okay.
It generally is whatever the maximum that platform will support.
And 9K is so super common at this point.
Almost everything does 9K.
But you
Or
still
9
find equipment
9,000.
which has annoying limitation when it comes to larger than page size buffers.
It goes to 11. Good work.
Good luck with that. Okay. That's painful.
Like,
Yeah,
oh,
so-
you ran out of pre-allocated MBuff and your kernel heap is fragmented. Good luck finding an 8K
Yeah.
set of physically continuous memory.
Yeah.
I guess
I've,
IOMMUs are going to save us eventually.
I haven't run into that problem in a long time. Not with what I would call production grade equipment.
Because good modern NICs have gather support.
Yeah, it's just that used to be a thing. God, I don't think I've seen that in 10 or 15 years. Maybe
Seen it on
others have-
10 gig NICs.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Early ones, like the really early stuff. I don't think I've seen it more
like
recently.
Intel, yeah, okay, it's old, like E520 or something.
I found
It's
the
not-
link.
Okay.
I was looking.
So, sorry, my motivation for that question was, of course, VXLAN and FreeBSD. And I think I stumbled across a really weird bug for which there is also a bug entry in our bug tracker,
Link.
which has not had received any love for years.
Link. What's the
So-
link?
So I can wait a minute. I'll demonstrate the problem to you quickly.
Oh, cool.
So
Please.
can I share my screen?
Yes. Yes, please.
So, freigeben, right. Aktuelle Freigabe ersetzen.
Ja.
That means replace. And I'm using that desktop. So you're seeing this?
Yeah.
So these are 3 Raspberry Pi computers. Is this sharp enough to
Pi 2,
read?
Pi 3. Yep, looks great.
And large enough? Okay. So,
Yeah, I can read.
So that's the configuration. We have a cloned interfaces statement, no surprises there. And then according to the man page, I have a local address and I have a multicast group, which all of these systems join. And then I have this virtual VXLAN fabric. And each of the systems has an IP address in that fabric. And the interface gets created beautifully. We have VXLAN 42, we have an IP address, we have a broadcast. It's up, but, and that's the problem. If I now try to ping another system, it says no route to host. Because, and that's the bug, I'll link the bug report soon. You need to additionally, although according to the documentation of the network, assigning the first IP address for any address family should bring the interface up. For the VXLAN, for some reason, it doesn't. So if I do...
Can you run ifconfig before you run up? Show it again.
Yep. 42, there you go.
It's admin up.
And now up. And now we get this running, and that's missing before. There is no running here. So now when I try to ping, I don't get the no route to host, but I get no answer unless, of course, on the destination.
Same problem there.
So VXLAN 42 up.
Yeah.
And now it's much happier.
Then we have connectivity. And this is the bug from 2021. And that's the state of affairs. So I can just make a comment and try if that catches someone's attention. Say, okay, I have it on 14.2 on ARM 64 and all those things. I cannot solve the problem. My coding skills are not good enough here for kernel stuff. But according to this last comment, it should be a solved problem in a different driver in the GIF implementation, so it should be possible to copy a bunch of things over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not a bunch of things, but like 3 lines.
Okay.
Well, either that or the comment about it's a design defect means it's the entire architecture of the driver.
Any volunteer, Jan?
No.
You're the kernel guru here?
I'm not.
Oh, Hans, it might be coin operated, but it's what we need.
What was the question?
There is this bug in chat that is related to VXLAN on FreeBSD that might not be complex, but it might be ridiculous. Hard to say.
Ridiculous.
I assume it's
Is that a
that
scientific term?
that there's a callback function in the interface structure which it needs to provide, and most drivers don't. So if it's the null pointer, the default behavior does the right thing, and this driver does not call some function on interface on address change or something. And it just has to call that to mark itself as running. Or even just set a flag in its struct IF.
Looking at the commit that was referenced from that bug report, assuming that the original author has correctly identified an appropriate commit, I think somebody's comment about it's more like 3 lines is closer to the truth. 3 lines.
So it's 30 lines with context.
3 lines and 2 missing functions.
Are
Or
the
maybe
Tom
4 or 5
Joneses of the
lines.
world showing up in the bug report?
Basically, the comment says that something like that was in the GIF interface and was fixed there, and a similar fix would be for the VXLAN or stuff. Do I read that correctly?
Yeah.
And it's assuming the diagnosis was correct in the first place, but we assume that.
I'm not familiar with the FreeBSD network drivers. I'm not familiar with VXLAN, but yeah, I mean, it can't be too hard to figure that one out.
Yeah, as I said, making some assumptions, porting this patch over to the VXLAN driver looks like it would be not a huge job for somebody who actually knew what they were doing.
That's the problem. You have to be familiar with the relevant kernel subsystems to quickly find the place. It's not that it's impossible otherwise, it's just that it takes
Yeah.
an inordinate amount of time to learn the relevant APIs.
I understand just enough of the code I'm reading to go, yeah, this looks reasonable. And that's it. That's as far as I can take it.
Well, that's why we have reviews. And you get all the wise
Yeah.
people to look except for Alexey's EDK2 update review.
Okay.
Fortunately, this is all way above my pay grade. Can't help you except get you talking. Let's see. I'm going to put then code to follow.
Yeah, my last kernel patch was OpenBSD in 2000. So no.
Great. Okay, anything else on VXLANs? Moving on for the lightning round, Dave C. mentioned the Go-based hoster for bhyve on the jail call. For what it's worth, it's out there. Some people will love the fact that it's Go and it's not in ports, and there's a link in the doc to it. If we had John, I'd probably grill him more for SRIOV topics. On another call, Jan, you pointed out that some of his issues might be mitigatable by pre-allocating the virtual functions, but that's for perhaps another day with John. Hopefully we'll remember that. Has anyone tried the new updated AMD IOMMU code that came out of the foundation? That was all SRIOV related, and poor Santiago is being burned by that. Hopefully it's all working, yay. Moving on, thank you, Andrew, for pointing out that on IRC, which I have recently rejoined. It's been kind of quiet there. Someone was having issue with a FreeBSD 10 VM under 14.2 freezing. And when they say freezing, gee, I'm wondering if it's running out of memory, running out of all sorts of countless things that have nothing to do with bhyve per se, but it's on Ryzen. They posted some DPay stuff. Let's see what that has. And I'd like to think this is the call at its finest. People share their problem. It's interesting. We address it, hopefully solve it, and then they magically get an answer without having to spend a minute listening to our t-shirt joke ideas.
Titan review.
Back to VXLAN.
Yes.
What may be interesting to use. There's a quite hacky configuration you can do with the FreeBSD bridge driver to run VXLAN without a multicast group. That is, you kind of configure a full mesh of VXLAN interfaces, add them to a bridge, disable spanning tree on them so that you would have a perfect loop of a fully meshed channel network, and then you configure all of the VXLAN ports as private, which means that if it's received on a private interface, it will never be forwarded to a private interface, which breaks the loop instead of spanning tree. And that way you can have the VXLAN point-to-point and rely on the bridge to do the unknown unicast and multicast flooding, and it will learn just like it would normally learn, so that you get basically source multicast / broadcast to unicast conversion, which allows you to run other arbitrary IP links without multicast capability.
That's interesting to me because in all the VXLAN work I've ever done, I have never configured multicast ever. I've relied on the behavior where multicast simply gets turned into broadcast. And the broadcast gets then in turn turned into broadcast over unicast.
Yeah, but exactly. Normally you would have anything but known unicast destinations be multicasted to a group, and that's a neat idea, but it assumes that your underlay can handle a non-trivial amount of multicast traffic.
Yeah, and I've just gone the other way entirely and said there's
Exactly.
so little multicast on my network, I don't care. Treat it as bum traffic like a real switch would, and it simply gets like unicasted times n VTEPs to every other node in the network.
Exactly, and you're kind of doing that in software with what I've described.
Oh,
Instead,
that's,
you would do it. What happens is you have your bhyve guests or VNet enabled jails attached to the bridge,
ew.
and the VLAN VTAP interfaces added to the bridge as well, with one VXLAN interface per peer, normally in a full mesh. And yeah, now you have a packet or frame which does not match any of the bridge's forwarding database entries. So it has to flood it. And it floods it through all the VXLANs. And it learns it, and everything is fine. But if you disable spinning tree, like you would have to on the VXLAN ports, you would end up with a perfect, just Ethernet loop. But if you tag each of the VXLAN interfaces in the bridge as private interfaces, the bridge driver would never forward a frame received on a private interface to another private interface. The name private doesn't really make a lot of sense for that. But it just cuts the loop so that it never loops, and it works for a small deployment over, let's say, IFIPsec, WireGuard, whatever.
Okay. That's strange and interesting to me that it's implemented that way. However,
the better way would be
Let
to
him finish.
have.
Yeah, let him finish. He's responding to you.
I have another meeting starting, and I'm getting paid to attend this one. So thank you, gentlemen.
Hey,
That's
a pleasure.
been actually interesting and useful. So
Cool.
I'll
And
get in
catch
contact
the
with
recording
Michael
if there's
later.
more. Okay.
Yep.
See ya.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Patrick, tell
So-
us about ifconfig VXLAN learn.
I'm perfectly fine with running VXLAN over multicast. So, and I found that there's a parameter to ifconfig that lets the local node of each of the participants maintain sort of a MAC address cache, so they know where to send the packets that match a certain destination. So essentially, they're doing the work of a learning bridge in the VXLAN interface. So
Exactly.
that's VXLAN learn thingy. It works. I tried it.
In the multicast configuration you've described, which assumes you have a multicast capable underlying network, a VXLAN VTAP interface is kind of a single ported switch.
Yep.
Which sounds a bit weird because it is. And the scalable solution would be to have BGP-based signaling, but we don't have a routing daemon, which can take a FreeBSD bridge and VXLAN interface and the BGP piece and keep all of it in sync with the right route types. Someone would have to add backend code into free-range routing for FreeBSD. It exists for Linux. We have a port of FRR 7 and 8, I think. But there's no FreeBSD specific code to keep the forwarding database of the VXLAN interface and the bridge in sync. Because that's an annoying problem that the bridge and the VXLAN then become kind of one entity to the BGP control plane. It's even if it's messy on Linux.
So I posted the single article I've found in the last 6 months about VXLAN on FreeBSD. There it is. It was related to WireGuard. Have a nice day. Anything else on VXLAN? Moving on, we were talking about this depaste. Maybe Andrew, just check in with them, see if they've fixed it on IRC. Let's not do that. I could switch to that tab and publicly do it, but do keep an eye on it if you can. So, ARM64 news. I noticed that there is devctl, you can detach devices, but as per a January post, oops, I confirmed that there is no PCI pass-through for bhyve on ARM64. I left it off asking if there's any plan to, and if there are any actionable proposals for work. I spent some time with FreeBSD, Zen, and VM bhyve in production. Should we kick these down the road to the next call, or would you like to hear a lightning round on them?
I'm fine with kicking it down the road for the next call.
Zing. Okay.
We've been here more than an hour.
Well, that's nothing by the classic standards. Danny and Fink, welcome. Do you have any topics? First timers?
Hey, good afternoon. No,
Hello.
just joining in to observe.
Cool. Are you using bhyve?
No, like I mentioned in the last call, we're looking to transition away from
Did it?
ESXi
Sweet. Okay.
onto bhyve.
Do you have any legacy applications to run, like old Windows VMs, etc.? That was a hot topic earlier.
Um, yeah, we're running an old Sage or Timberline accounting system that uses an old pervasive, I believe it's 11 database. So that's got to get moved over. I think it's running Windows 2008.
That's precisely what we discussed earlier. Go ahead and listen to that. And there are many use cases for supporting old things.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about people running industrial machinery on 95, so
Yeah, I don't
which
envy those
happens.
guys.
Yeah.
Danny, do you have anything? Welcome. Don't know if it's your first call or not. It takes me about 3 times to hear a name before it like sticks in my old head. And Eva, do you have anything? Welcome. I know you've been busy. And yeah, I'm picking on people going around the horn. Well, I will move this topic to the next one. And I'll try to do that without disrupting the call recording. Other cool lessons this week from anyone? Patrick, any news on a certain attempt to fork a popular storage operating system?
No, nothing new, unfortunately. I mean, they pulled their ISO install image after a minor complaint by Chris Moore about some copyrighted files, and they have
Really?
not reissued a new release since. It's been three or 4 weeks or something.
Hmm.
So I probably have to check out the source tree and learn to build my own. I don't know. I even prepared a dedicated machine for testing.
Got it. Cool. The OpenZFS user and developer summit is this close to having a logo that I worked on until about 3 in the morning. So hopefully maybe Monday that will get announced with a pretty picture logo and dates that are October 25th through 28th. Is that right? It sounds like I know some of you have participated in last year's event, and I thank you for that. And 25th through 28th, and a traditional wonderful sponsor has come through in wonderful ways. So things are looking remarkably good despite the uncertainty all around. I'd love to see some of you there, especially anyone who was lined up to attend but had to run off to a job interview. And that's what life looks like. There is a badge waiting for you. Thank you very much. Oh, and I think I still have mine on the wall there because reasons. So anyhow, Anything else? Any topics to propose for, say, coming weeks? Well, I am glad we had that discussion because it just keeps coming out of the woodwork on god-awful things that need to be virtualized for various reasons, like, gee, money counters. And you probably want to count that money at your business. And it's like, what do you mean we can't use the thing for like vague reasons? Yeah, no. Oh, so keep those examples coming. Please keep fingerprinting tools coming. It's a journey. Here we are. 225-0. That would be the 10th. Okay. Anything else? Wait. Okay. Then that said, who should I pick on? Patrick, would you like the honors?
Giving the like and subscribe, folks, and thank you very much for watching.
Beautiful. Thank you. Take care, everyone.